It's good to see great and wonderful people who are standing up, not just for themselves today, but for Africa. Africa is on the move, and the journey has begun. And I think each and every one of you should spread the word that you should join on to the back bottom before you lose out. I'm talking, as a medical doctor, I'll be talking about healthcare in Africa in the new age. And what does that mean? We all know now that it's a global village, because something that is happening in Wuhan, thousands of miles away, and people are having fever and shivers here, because right now, we all live in a global village, and we cannot obviate the fact that what affects one person there is affecting you here as well. So also the issues that are happening back home in Africa, as they're happening to people back home, is also affecting you as well. And it comes to the same thing when it comes to health. Now, in all parameters, not just in Africa, but all over the world, and I'm sure in the United States, blacks or people of African descent fare worse, often enough. And that's one thing you begin to think around. Why? Why? The question before we move on, for Africa to be wealthy, Africa has to be healthy. You know what they say, health is wealth. Because guess what? If any of you is feeling sick today, you will not be here, correct? So health, it's imperative. It's one thing that has to be dealt with when it comes to the issues that Africa and those in African descent has to deal with. Now, the world global economy, or GDP, is about $80 trillion globally. Africa controls only $1.2 trillion out of that. And that's so small. So the reason why I'm saying this country alone spends over trillions of dollars on health issues. How much is Africa spending on health? I remember when the AU, they all came together and said, you know what, let's at least spend about 15% of the GDP, country's GDP, individually, because that's what advanced the health of Africans. Who, other than a few South African countries, the maximum was actually 8%. And my dear beloved country has spent only 3.2% of the GDP, and they will begin to wonder why we fare worse. And it's particularly disheartening, because the things are shifting. We used to deal with infectious disease, and that's the #1 killer. In most developing countries, especially in Africa, age 5 years and below, pneumonia is the #1 cause of death in age 5 years and below. And that should not be. That's what they've been able to eliminate in this country, just with immunizations alone. With immunizations alone. So the question is this: what are we doing back home? Why? I'll take it in 2 or 3 prongs. Individual responsibility. We as Africans must have to learn to take responsibility for our health. Because even here in this country, we really don't. When it comes to health issues, I mean, what's up with African men? The black man still has his mojo with him. Nothing's wrong with me. If he ain't broken, don't fix it. We're shifting away from that. You need to go get a checkup. Because you didn't get a checkup in 50 years does not mean you're a strong man. It almost means you're a foolish man, I'm sorry. Because look, if you catch something early enough, you can fix it. And if you get screened early enough, prostate cancer, for instance, huge in the African community, on the entire black race. We have screening measures. Colon cancer. Recently, they just changed that the screening guideline for colon cancer, it used to be 50 years. Now for blacks, it's 45. Because they find out that younger and younger black men or black women are dying from colon cancer. So that's the reason why people are paying attention to those things. So the question is this: we as individuals, we have to take primarily responsibility for our health. You have to. Because if you don't, then who else or how else You know, the decisions you make not to do that not just affect you, but it also affects your family. And I always tell people this. Look, if you come to see me now and you end up in the ER and you get admitted, guess what? Everything in your family stops. The wife who is supposed to go to work will stop going to work. The children most likely will go to school, would not go to school, because they have to come meet you in the ER or come see you in the hospital. And if peradventure, God forbid, they're coming to the hospital, get into an accident, something happens, it is your fault as well. You may not directly see it, but these are causal relationships. So individual responsibility, yes. And again, as you sit here to think about that, think about the next person you're going to talk to, who you help advance their healthcare. If you have a brother, a sister, and you know you have a disease, you go check. The doctor told you you have high blood pressure, you have diabetes. Listen, tell your brother, tell your sister. Because these things run in DNAs. They really run. Whose DNA are you carrying? Not mine. You're carrying your father's, and you're generational. So if you tell your brother, if you get screened as colon cancer, tell your brother, tell your sister. Not hide it away. Because you think, oh, some voodoo that they cook for you somewhere, that's the reason why you're not, and you don't want to tell somebody. Because guess what? How would you feel? You get screened and you're taking care of your colon cancer, guess what? Then your cousin or your brother gets screened and has colon cancer, and then dies. That's your responsibility. So share the words. So the essence is this: we have to be advocates as well. You have to advocate for your own. We have to advocate for our health. Now, as those in diaspora, you have a role to play. Go back home, come together, pull your resources together. And what I call resources, your time, your money, and your intellectual capacity. You're not just here in America for nothing. God has made you and elevated you to this level. Now, back home, what do you do back home to fix this? Like I said, form corporations. As you form your local associations, your parako, I'll use the word. Go back home. Pick a teaching hospital, one unit, pediatric unit, the whole entity, fix it. The emergency room in Accra, fix it. The emergency room in Unilab, fix that. Because guess what? God forbid, when you get sick and you land in Nigeria, where do you think they'll take you to? That emergency room that is run down, dead, and drowned. And that's where you go, and you will not survive it. So when you come together, begin to put your resources together to fix those things. Take a project. Now, politically, look, begin to speak to the government. If you don't know how to speak, look for those who can speak. Come together, support those who can. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to modify it to serve your purpose. If you speak, if you want to change power, you must get close to power, period. And how do you do that? You form associations together that can speak to power. And that's how you begin to make them change. And that's how you begin to ensure that the 15% that ideally should push, they should push it. If they can't, then they put up to 8 to 10%. And then we begin to get results. And in this way, I say thank you and God bless you.
Let's give it over to Dr. Aluya. Give it up.